2/10 of a second further back. David Ward in third, Mick Claridge in fourth, and Thomas Van Boosel rounds out your top 5. Randy, this track is very, very tough on drivers. You cannot put a foot wrong the entire race.
Yeah, Barber is very, very treacherous, and it's very easy to put a couple wheels off and get your car loose and lose it. And I mean, I've seen it time and time again on these races at Barber and in these cars as well. So it'll be interesting to see if these people can keep it clean for the next 45 minutes.
So, cars working themselves now out this very fast, difficult section of the racetrack. You really have to abuse the curbs at this track in some measures, but at the same time, you really can't take too much of them. This section of the racetrack, as you lead into sector 3, you do yourself a very fast left-hander down the dip, then immediately back to the right, and from there on, pretty much a turning right almost all the way to the end of the lap. You come up the hill, then you work yourself into essentially 3 mini right-handers in a row. As I say, Andre Massario is starting on pole position. He is on the left-hand side. He will have the advantage down into turn number 1. Pace car is in. Andre Massario, that Team GT car, they've been dominant all season long. Can they get victory once again in the ESRA Championship? The green flag's in hand, and we are racing here at Barber Motorsports Park as the cars all storm down into turn number 1 for the first time. Good start by your top 2 drivers. David Ward's going to have a car alongside him. That is a 340 car on Mick Claridge. They touch once, they touch twice. Claridge moves himself up into the 3rd position. David Ward goes down into the 4th position. Thomas Van Boosel rounds out your top 5. Then it's Diego Comini in the 6th position, and also Van Boosel looking very racy. David Ward's going to look down to the inside of Mick Claridge as they work themselves through the hairpin for the first time. But I tell you what, Ward will not be happy with that bump in turn number 1.
Yeah, that was a good start by Mick to be able to hold next to David side by side through turn 1 and getting himself the inside for turn 2 and 3. And as you see, he got on the spot, and he's starting to put some space on David now as David's trying to hold off Thomas Van Boosel.
And Van Boosel is working himself in that 5th position right now, trying to close down Ward in that number 69 car. And just you saw that Van Boosel running a little bit wide as he works himself for the first of the S's. This is the second of the S's as they work themselves into a dip and then up the hill once again. Van Boosel getting a little bit sideways. That will allow Diego Comini to close up on him just a little bit. You've got yourself a 6-car breakaway right now. Sato Prosen has got Peter Ridley. He's gone off behind him. Peter Ridley was in the 8th position. He's going to lose himself a lot of time. And this arguably, Randy, is the worst place to lose your car because it's very difficult to get back onto the racetrack. And Ridley is going to complete lap number 1 after qualifying in the 7th position all the way down in the 16th, 17th spot on the racetrack.
Yeah, if you go off on that long right-hander, which, I mean, it's basically taken as one long corner, and it's really difficult trying to get your car back to the asphalt relatively decent amount of time. And he, at the start like that, we just saw it, he lost 9 spots just immediately.
So working ourselves right now on lap number 2 this race. And of course your race leader is Andrew Massario in that number 89 car as he works himself back down into turn number 9 and 10 once again. Now this is the easier arguably of those 2 S-bends. The next one, turn number 11 and 12, that is where you have more undulation. The car goes under a lot more strain. We saw Van Boosel really get a little bit sideways in lap number 1. And these drivers, now they settle down into their rhythm. It'll be interesting to see whether or not they can close up a little bit of time. Mick Claridge, by the way, is all over the rear of Aero Nom right now in that battle for the 2nd position. You are right, Randy. He has dropped David Ward, and now Claridge looking as though he's going to try and mount a charge on that 3 car to move himself up into P2.
Yeah, Mick has some pretty, looking pretty racy in race pace, it looks like. I mean, he qualified, I believe it was 4th in qualifying, so he's been quick all weekend. So he'll be see if he can continue this on and see if he can get his way past Aero Nom and maybe work his way up to NJ.
It does look as though he suffers a little bit in turn number 1, but then through turn 2, very good line there. And once again, comes out the hairpin. It does look as though he's struggling a little bit getting onto the power, but once you get into the faster sections of the racetrack, that is where he is better. That's going to cause him a couple of issues because of the fact, of course, on the high-speed corners, it's a lot more difficult to overtake. But now we'll see, as he runs himself out of turn number 8 and 8A, he's running a little bit wide there out of 8A. But now is the time on the racetrack where he will probably close up a little bit to the rear of Aero Nom. Again, using a lot of curbs there in turn number 9, as he comes back down into that 11 and 12 sweeping complex. And then after that, you're turning all the way to turn 13, 14, 14A. Right hand. And it really does just tighten up at this section of the racetrack. Got to be very good on the brakes into 14A. Then you flick it to the left-hand side, complete your lap. That is turn number 15. You come past start-finish line as Claridge goes wide.
Yeah, he's got good pace, but if he keeps pushing wide like that, he's just going to end up losing time regardless of it. And it's real easy to get frustrated. Oh, we got a second place car going way off at turn 1.
That's Aeronom.
Right in front of him, and there is contact. That's really, it'll be interesting to see if Claridge has damage from that. These DPs are pretty aero dependent, and just a little tuck like that can screw it up. He does have some damage on the front of the car. We'll see how it affects him.
We'll get a replay up on your screen in a moment, and that was Aeronom. This is at the start of lap number 4 in the race, so the tyres should have heated up a little bit. Brakes in the normal place, the rear end of the car just steps out on him a tiny bit, has to go onto the gravel, and then he hits a huge bump to try to bring that car back onto the racetrack. And Mick Claridge, he does get himself a little bit of front end damage. It'll be interesting to see just how much it's going to affect him, especially on a tight, tricky track like this, where you really, really want to have your car working perfectly. And again, wide by Claridge, he's worked himself out of turn 8, and Ward really is close enough. He's not losing as much time as he was earlier on, so I think this is hurting Mick Claridge a little bit now.
Yeah, I think the problem with Mick is he's just constantly pushing wide a little bit at corners. He's constantly putting 2 tires on the grass. Gets the car just a little bit upset, which it doesn't sound like a lot, but it loses in time. And as you can see, Andre has put a huge space between himself and Mick since that incident. So that's why... Go ahead.
By the way, Oliver Kozak, he had a moment that was down at turn number 14. He was running in the 12th position on the racetrack, but it looks like he has had some issues. By the way, Aeronom is on pit road right now, and Patrice Languette is out of the race, our first retiree of the day. But that's going to be disappointing for Aeronom. He qualified this race in the 2nd position, 2 tenths back from Andrea Massario. But of course, Team GT have been so dominant in this series, and the last thing you're going to want to do in that 5 of the race is allow that Team GT car to have a 4-second lead. And Claridge now has got a little bit of damage. His lap times aren't as fast as they were at the start of the race. His last lap, in 1 minute 18.531, and he's running about a second a lap slower now than what he was doing at the start of this race. And Ward behind him, in the meanwhile, is, a little bit slower, but he's now in that dirty air of Claridge, and that's what's hurting him a little bit. And all this is doing is allowing Massario to drive away right now at a second a lap.
Yeah, Massario, he's been phenomenal. His Mick is wide in the second to last corner there, but Massario has just been picture perfect, whereas if you've been watching Mick, he's constantly been putting 2 wheels off, touching the curb, which at a track like this, it seems like it's faster, but every time you do that, the car does kick loose a little bit, and it does lose you time with how twisty this track is.
So we are working ourselves now on lap number 6 in this race. Give you an update. Patrice Languette is out of the race. Aeronom is still sat on pit road, now scored as 1 lap down. In the midfield, by the way, we've got great battles going on. Theo Van Brick is trying to close up to the rear of Andy Goodison. It does look like Goodison was able to get past that last lap. We've got a spinning car, and that is down at the hairpin, and that was Dario Ushuti, one of the Team GT drivers, who just lost it slow speed down into the hairpin. The rear end of the car just looked like that stepped out on him as he caught a scene. He was able to get out of everyone's way, so no harm, no real foul, but 4 positions lost there. For Dario Ushuti in at that number 77 car, as Nick Phillips, Oliver Kozak, Theo Van Brink, and also Andy Goodison goes past him. And it does seem to be the slow speed corners is what's hurting drivers in this race today.
Yeah, Barber is pretty slick, especially with the seams on the asphalt. You can see it. The entire track is basically separated into 3 lanes, and as you transfer across those seams, it does get a little bit loose, especially under braking for the hairpin and in turn 8. It's real easy to kick the car sideways. You got to stay off.
By the way, David Ward had a slow lap that last time by 1 minute 19.094. Allowed Mick Claridge to dance off into the sunset just a little bit, and that gap now up to 3 seconds between Claridge in 2nd and David Ward, who's running in that 3rd position. Claridge has been able to find a little bit of speed again. He's back into the 1 minute 17 his last lap. He's at 1 minute 17.750. However, Andre Massario, of course, he's in clean air. He does 2 tenths of a second faster lap last time by. He set his fast lap of the race on lap 5. That was a 1 minute 17.274, and he's leading this race right now by 4.3 seconds. Your top 10, Andrew Massario in that number 89 Team GT car leading the way. The 340 car of Mick Claridge in the 2nd position. Banshee Autosports, David Ward in 3rd. Thomas Van Boosel in 4th. Diego Comini in the 5th position. Sasso Prosin in 6th. Andy Goodison in 7th. Theo Van Brunk in 8th. Oliver Kozak in 9th. And then Nick Phillips rounds out your top 10. Down in the middle of the pack, by the way, Doriano Risciuti is trying to close back up to get himself into a top 10 position after that moment down at the hairpin. He is right now catching Nick Phillips, who last time by did a 1 minute 19.569. And Risciuti is going to want to get past all these cars as quickly as possible. Remembering all of these guys are going to make a pit stop. If I was Doriano actually, and he gets stuck in traffic, I would come into pit road as early as I physically can, just to get that clean air.
Yeah, that's one of the big things with seeing a race like this. It's probably not going to have to take much fuel, but it's basically just getting yourselves out with a little as traffic as possible, whether it's faster cars coming behind you or slower cars coming from ahead of you. It's just their best bet is just pit, sometimes early, especially if you make a mistake, get the new tires, be able to take a breath, and just work from there.
So, meanwhile, behind them, Franklin Stiglink and Andre Brunidi, they are battling. This is outside of the top 10. This is P13 and P14 at the moment on the racetrack. And it does look as though up and down the field we have got some amazing battles on the racetrack. The only issue is, of course, is that this track is very difficult to pass on, Randy.
Yeah, there's only maybe one decent passing spot, maybe two. But the problem is everywhere where you can get alongside, often the next following corner goes in the opposite direction, meaning if you do manage to get the inside, the person you're just trying to pass now has the inside to the next corner. So it really, if they can hold their line, it makes it really, really difficult trying to get by.
Peter Ridley, by the way, he's brought his car on road, and he was running in the number 14 car. He started this race in the 7th position, just trying to see exactly what happened to him. But I say he has brought his car on pit road. He's now scored 2 laps down, and it looks as though he had a couple of moments on lap 5. It looks he just had some very close near misses. But his car is now on pit road. He scored 2 laps down, and I did notice he went off at one of the high-speed corners, and kind of confused what's happened to Ridley. It doesn't look as though there's too much damage on that car. Oh no, I take that back. That was down as he went down the hill. This was turn number 7B, 7B and 8, and it looks like he just caught the rear of Franklin Stiglink, which is why he's got a little bit of front damage. But it's one of these things as well. You talked about this earlier on in the race, Randy. These cars are so aero-dependent, and at a track like this where you really need to have that car working perfectly, one little creep is not only going to hurt your top speed, but really hurt the way your car is going to turn as well.
Yeah, at a track like this, I mean, some tracks, like say if we were at Sebring or maybe Road America, cars are so trimmed out that they're not quite as important on aero, but on a track like this, they have as much aero packed onto these things as they possibly can, trying to get the cornering speed out of them. And any little damage, all it does is slow down your cornering speed, and with as few straightaways as they are, that really affects your lap time.
52 car of Theo Van Brunk. He's had a moment, and this I believe is again down at the hairpin. No, it's not. It's actually coming out of turn number 2-3 by the look of it. Gets that car a little bit wide into turn 3. The rear end again on the scene, kicks out on him, and one car was able to avoid hitting him, and then he basically had to wait to allow about 2 cars to go past him. In fact, that was the final corner, Randy. And he's fallen all the way down now into the 12th position on the racetrack. Let's not forget, he was behind Nick Phillips, and we've got another car at 77 again. Doriano Risciuti, and the same corner he spun earlier, losing it again down at the hairpin in turn number 5. And I tell you what, these seams, they don't look that scary. However, you put a rear wheel on that, and your car is going to go sideways. And this is what, the 5th, 6th incident we see now with cars hitting the seams in the wrong place.
Yeah, it's probably a mixture of the seams and probably people running just maybe a little bit too much rear bias. They probably, if you're off the seam, the tires are probably fine, but if you put a rear tire on it, have one of the rears lock up, and then it just spins around. So it's definitely something that is that need to be more wary of. So going back up to the leaders, Mick Claridge has both evened the pace up, and he's even been running lap faster than Andre Masairo, and he's been reeling him in the past few laps. The last lap he was about a tenth slower, but the last before he was a couple tenths quicker pretty consistently.
Yeah, and we all thought that he was going to have a little bit of an issue after he had that moment with Aero Nom on lap number 3 of this race. However, he has been able to get himself back into the groove, and we always talk about aero and everything else, but this is a key momentum track as well. If you can get yourself into the groove, you're fine. If you know, your mind starts wandering, you miss an apex here, and your lap time goes down 1 lap, you start chasing the time. As soon as you start chasing the time here, that is when it can really come and bite you in the rear end. And for Mick Claridge right now in that 340 car, we'll see what the gap is as they come back past the line. Timing and scoring will update itself in just a moment. And Andrew Masairo, that last time by, does a lap time of 1:17.535. Wow, Claridge a 1:17.4. So again, he was fast that lap.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see. He's not taking huge chunks of time out of him, but he's taking just a little bit lap by lap. And we got about another, what, 25 minutes left in this race or so? He's going to be able to reel that in, I feel, if he's able to keep this pace up and keep it consistent. Although he does have his car set up pretty loose. You can tell by the way he's driving it, the way it's sliding around. So he's going to have to be a little bit careful in order to keep up his consistency.
I tell you what, he's probably speaking to his crew chief earlier on. He was saying that he was losing his sight, losing his mind. He was just hoping that his bot would tell him that he was fine. But he is running in that second position and is catching the Team GT car of Andre Masairo in that number 89 car. Let's not forget, however, Masairo doesn't necessarily have to push that hard. He's got himself a 3.8 second cushion. We know how good those Team GT cars are when it comes to pitting. And Masairo has been the actual king of pit stops this season. We never know. Mick Claridge could also be a little bit lighter on fuel. Right now, we are getting close to half race distance here from the ESRA Riley Daytona Prototype Championship here at Barber Motorsports Park. We're 15-ish minutes into the race, so if you want to pit, you can pit from any time about now.
Yeah, generally these races about somewhere close to midway is generally important. Generally, just the main thing is if you have enough room in the fuel tanks, because you're going to take the same amount of fuel regardless of when you pit. So sometimes it's just, do you want the car to be lighter and you just run longer and then the car will weigh less with the fuel, or do you want to just get out of traffic? It is a balancing act, but it's a real important one as well.
So let's talk about the cars who are scored laps down very quickly. Lorenzo Gorbetti is scored 1 lap down in the number 20 car. We talked about Peter Ridley earlier. He is back onto the racetrack, but now he's scored a 3 lap. Aero Nom is still sat on pit road. He's now scored 6 laps down in this race. Treesline Get, as we say, is out. However, Van Boosel has caught back up to the rear of David Ward. And we've seen this before in this series with David, in that he's very good at the start of the run, but then as the tyres start wearing off, he has struggled at Van Boosel right onto the rear of him. And you see David Ward's taking a very defensive line as they work themselves down into 14A. And it does look as though that Ward's tyres have gone off very early on. And now he's having to run a very, very, very conservative line to avoid Van Boosel from passing him.
Yeah, Van Boosel is definitely faster than David right now. The only reason he hasn't been able to get by is just how difficult it is to pass here. Like I was saying earlier, was how the track constantly goes left and then right very quickly. It is very difficult to get past. But yeah, I'm curious if maybe it's in David's setup, or maybe just a mentality David has when he gets racing. Some people they can put down quick times, like a lap or two, but and once they get in the groove, their pace just falls off a little bit. And I'm curious if that might be what's happening to David right now.
And of course, if you set yourself up to, fill the car up with fuel and you want it to go as late as possible in that race, you are now tied into that pit stop. If you set your car up that you're going to go halfway, then you've got a little bit more window. However, the last thing David is going to want to do is allow Van Boosel to drive away from him, because the Apex community is also closing up from this group as well, and David Ward could be looking to be on the rear end of the top 5 if he doesn't keep Van Boosel behind him until this round of pit stops end. And it does look as though that Van Boosel that time wasn't able to close up, but Ward really is attacking the curbs as well. I know a lot of drivers use the curbs to help turn the car on some of these faster corners, and again Van Boosel gets a very good run out of 14A into 15, but he just doesn't seem to be able to get on the power as early as Ward is able to.
Yeah, Ward is getting a good run out of that last trick especially, and Could be multiple reasons why. Could be setup. Could be just the way David's attacking the corner. As Van Boosel stuck right up to the back of David there in turn 2 and 3. And Van Boosel gets a good run out of this. He might be able to have a go going into the hairpin, but Ward takes a very defensive line into the hairpin.
Side by side.
Both very late on the brake.
You
Van
can try and
Boosel's
get
going to be able to get a good run.
Yeah,
he's going to try to take it through the corkscrew-like section that Barber has. This is going to be really sketchy side by side. Let's see if they do it. And Van Boosel backs out of it, which is a smart decision.
He does. But of course, if Ward messes up his entry point, then Van Boosel is going to be able to get the exit better. But that's the thing as well. That shows you how difficult it is to overtake here. Because what Ward did, he did perfect defensive driving there. He was able to hold the inside line coming into the hairpin. And then, of course, because Van Boosel wasn't side by side for the exit of the corner, he was then able to move his car to the right-hand side, put himself into the inside for the following corner. But really, they are losing a lot of time right now. They're losing close to 7 tenths of a second a lap over Claridge and Massario. By the way, Claridge has fallen back. The gap is now 5 seconds between Massario and Claridge in that battle for the race lead.
Yeah, as you battle, you're going to tend to lose time, and that's what's happening to David and Van Boosel. I mean, every time you have to take an early take an entry shallow or not track out as far because of the cars next to you, it just take 10ths off the lap time, and it's real easy to lose time.
And I think you get a perfect indication there. When Ward knew that Van Boosel wasn't able to slide it down the inside, he took his normal racing line into the corner. And that defensive driving, I mean, it can hurt you anywhere between 2 tenths to half a second per corner. And if you really are doing defensive driving, half the way through the lap, that's going to cost you at least a second and a half. Last time by Van Boosel, a 1 minute 19.171. He's been running into 17s in this race. That shows you how much he's losing.
Yeah, they'll always say that if the one thing a leader ever wants to, or the one thing a leader wants to see in his mirror is second and third place battling, because it just loses time, and it's like that in any. Ooh, that was Van Boosel took a big, quite a curve there. Go ahead.
Also, you had Andy Goodison coming out of pit road, and there was a car who was getting sideways in turn number 1. That was, I believe, Franklin Stieglek there. And Stieglek, he's lost his car in turn number 1, shot across the racetrack. And I tell you what, very lucky there, Andy Goodison, they didn't get taken out by Franklin Stieglek. It was mighty close between them. Then Stieglek loses the car in turn number 2. It looks like his race may be done. He's already got himself some damage. And also Aeronom comes back out onto the racetrack, and he simply spun by the look of it there. And Aeronom's car just isn't handling at all. It looks like he is definitely going to be out of the race now.
Yeah, that was a pretty big hit he took when McClaren tapped him when he spun, and it looks like Aero was getting ready just to pull it off. But yeah, that's definitely a heartbreaker for Aero. He had really, really good pace.
So, guys who are struggling in this race, Serrano Rasciuti, he's had, 3 spins, I think, in this race right now, as he's just going past very slow Lorenzo Cobetti. Andy Goodison, he's had a couple of moments, and his right rear is bent up out of shape as well. And right now, he is being caught by Andre Branidi in the number 33 car, and last time by Branidi was able to go much faster than Goodison. Goodison, a 1 minute 35. I believe he has made his first pit stop of the day. Yeah, he's made his one and only pit stop needed as there's a car off the racetrack, and that has got Becky going very wide there, out of turn number 3 and 4. And of course, being a short track, the guys are already working themselves through lap traffic, and the last thing they're going to want is having damaged cars driving themselves around the racetrack, off pace, offline, because even if they get out of the way, it distracts you when you're racing.
Yeah, that, and even when they get in the way, they do slow you down. Even if you're not necessarily side by side, you might get hung up in a corner, or if you do go side by side, we were talking about that earlier, it's easy to lose 2 tenths to half a second per corner at this racetrack. And with the gap between Mick and Andre being only 5 seconds, that, I mean, a couple bad cars and Andre is suddenly in the clutches of McClaren. He's still lapping at about the same pace, if not faster. He was 4 tenths faster last lap, actually.
And some of that will come down to traffic. And Claridge, just having a look, he was very lucky there. He was able to catch and pass the lap traffic of Franklin Stieglek as he came out of the corkscrew section of the racetrack, keeping an eye out on their lap time. Last time by, Claridge did a 1 minute 17.9. Massario comes past, did a 1 minute 18.1. He comes past line once again. Massario, a 1 minute 18.0. He has got some traffic ahead of him. That is Lorenzo Gobetti, who might hold him up a little bit, actually. Because in that dirty air, Massario, of course, is running clean traffic all race long. And through that turn 2-3 sweeper, you know, you really do have the air taken off the front of your car.
Yeah, turn 2 and 3, it's about a medium speed corner, but the aerodynamics really are important. So having a car in front of you like that is really nothing you want, especially going up through turn 4 through that uphill right-hander. Because that not only gets rid of front grip and makes you corner slower, but it can affect your rear wing as well, which can make the car get really loose, and it's really easy to lose it there.
You saw it on your screen, Mick Claridge got mighty loose down at the hairpin. Another driver to catch that scene. Claridge really is passing that car around the racetrack right now. I think now that traffic's coming to play, Claridge smells a little bit of blood. He knows that 4.5 seconds can evaporate from nowhere, but he's going to catch a car at possibly the worst place on the racetrack, this turn 13, 14, 14A complex, and he might just be okay to then find a way through into 15, but the car goes off the racetrack. Claridge is going to have to be careful, and he will able to get past. Again, though, it's one of those things when a car goes off track, you are thinking...
the car's slow on the home straightaway.
Yeah, and that's Rene Raschuti, who's had another incident. And all of these things makes it more and more difficult for a driver to stay in the groove. Claridge that last time by lost 4/10 of a second. Part of that was, of course, due to his moment down at the hairpin. The rest of that was all due to the fact that traffic was all over the place there. Massaio's been very lucky where he catches traffic. And of course, being the leader, you're always going to get out of the way of the leader because you don't want to be that guy directly.
Yeah, you don't ever want to be that guy. I've been that guy, and it always feels really bad. As going back to David Ward and Thomas Van Boossel's battle, they're still just about 2-3 tenths off of each other, pretty much bumper to nose.
And also, Diego Comini, that gap between them and Comini has realized at about 5 seconds that Comini's not been able to make any advantage in that number 21 Team GT car. So Van Boosel running in at that 4th position, still on the rear of David Ward, and right now he's probably just going to look for a mistake, and of course, they are working themselves into traffic as well. Gobetti gets out of the way. He won't split the two drivers. And really is terrifying the speed differential between some of the lap cars and the cars scored on the lead lap right now. As Oliver Kozak, by the way, is on pit road. There was another car on pit road as well. That is Tom Cable. Having a look to see whether Cable has any damage, and he doesn't. So this looks as though it should be a standard pit stop now for Cable. And he's topping up the fuel, getting tyres, and he is out and away. So we are in that pit window now. We are past halfway distance as Massario goes past Andre Brunadi even, and Oliver Kozak. And once you get these drivers fighting each other, scored laps down as well, that's when it gets really difficult.
Yeah, this is a really narrow racetrack, and as a leader, the lap cars are fighting for their own position. It makes it really difficult, and you know who might be breathing a little bit easier due to this traffic is David Ward, because the thing with the traffic is that it makes it very hard to try to get by a car that's in front of you unless they get really unfortunate with the traffic, which means that Van Boosel has to back off a little bit, can't poke his nose in odd places like he might otherwise do, just practicing good racecraft and harassing David Beer.
Theo Van Rink lost his car down the hill through the corkscrew, got himself a little bit sideways, and then it looks as though he came into one of the S's. Oh, he just lost concentration there, ran over one of the markers, and I think he was trying to adjust something, perhaps tell his pit crew that he didn't need to take tyres or something. That's a very weird incident. He just blew himself off the track.
Yes, that's really easy to do, especially at a track like this where things happen really quickly. Basically always turning at this track. There's not any long straightaways. So just a little bit of lapse of concentration, maybe looking at your brake bias, looking at your tires, and then eyeballing up, like, oh no, I'm 2 markers late. Really easy to do.
Claridge is on pit road, so he is the first of those cars to blink. Andre Massario, he'll probably be in the next 5 minutes. Claridge is going to be out and away. Importantly for Claridge, he has got in some form of clean air. There is no one behind him. He has got 1 car ahead of him, that is Sasso Prosen, who's turning out to about 1 minute 19.0. Now, Claridge is about 1.52 seconds back. So if he can catch and pass Prosen quickly, that won't be an issue. But of course, Massario in clean air with lighter fuel, there is a good chance that Massario is going to be able to eke out that advantage even more. Keep an eye out to see whether he comes on pit road this time by. The answer is going to be no, he doesn't. he is catching Andy Goodison, who is scored on the lead lap, and is only doing lap times about a second and a half slower than Masario at this stage of the race. This will be slightly more difficult now for Masario, but of course we keep our eye out on Proson, who has got Lorenzo Gobetti ahead of him, a lap car, and Mick Claridge behind him as well. Now Claridge is going to have to hope he gets past Gobetti in time. Yes, he does. And I tell you what, Claridge really is reeling in. That's a Proson there, but Claridge runs wide down at turn number 13 on the racetrack. And it's that thing, the traffic, you have to go a little bit offline, and Claridge right now, he knows he's got to push, but he can't put a foot wrong. He's got a surefire podium in his hands right now.
Yeah, that incident down there in 11 and 12 for Claridge is just a matter. He wanted to get his way past that lap car, which he did, but he pushed a little bit too hard in on entry, and his entry was too shallow for him to be able to hold that speed. Just pushed it wide a little bit.
David Ward, by the way, on pit road.
David Ward pitting, and he's exiting. Let's see where cars behind him at.
Aero Nom is going to be right ahead of him now. Aero Nom has had some serious damage with his race car. Ward is going to want to push as early as possible. If he can get a good run for the next couple of corners, he might just be able to sneak past Nom. Yes, he should be able to. He's going to have to go around the outside.
Yeah,
He'll clear him in time. And Thomas Vatbark. Now, Vatbark has scored one lap down. He's wanting to get past Vatbark as well. Vatbark moves himself to the inside. Ward should be able to if he gets the power. Yes, he will get past before they get down to the corkscrew. So lucky there for David Ward. Thomas Bussel is onto pit road now. And this basically is the battle for the last spot on the podium that will be decided possibly in this pit stop. Van Bussel goes one lap longer. That means he might have to take a tiny bit less fuel than David Ward in that number 69 car. Ward is working himself right now through turn number 11 and 12. He is coming up to now. And we'll keep our eye out to see where Van Bussel is as Ward through turn number 12. Up he comes into turn number 13, and Van Bussel is still on pit road. David Ward working himself now down into turn number 14A, into turn number 15. Van Bussel is out of his pit box, coming down. There is the commit cone. David Ward is not going to be anywhere near close enough. Van Bussel gets about a 4-second jump there.
Yeah, I'm not really sure what happened there. Maybe Ward took too much gas. Maybe Van Bussel just flat out got onto pit road quicker. Maybe it was a little bit more reckless, if you will, trying to enter. And like you said, Ward just lost probably about 4 seconds out of thin air, really.
And Lorenzo Gobetti is his race car around, and Ward is coming up behind him. Will Ward be able to keep out of the way? I think Ward got very badly held up there by Gobetti.
Yeah, Ward looks like he just got a couple doses of bad luck. Whatever happened with his stop, and then with that slow traffic there. As moving up back to Mick Claridge, he is getting held up by Sasa Prosten right now.
He really is getting held up, and Prosten going very sideways, and this is through turn number 13, 14 on the racetrack. Prosten going wide. Claridge almost running into the rear of him. Claridge almost spinning it, and he loses a second there. And what that's going to do, he's going to have to catch him again, and his car's all over the place. There was no contact there between the two drivers, but Claridge really is overdriving that car. Last time by 1 minute 19.5. I tell you what, if Claridge doesn't pick up the pace and pass Prosten soon, Van Bussel could leapfrog him into second.
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, the way Mick is driving, he's driving very quick, but he's driving very borderline recklessly because he's just basically throwing it to the limit as much as he can. And although that's fast when it goes right, when it goes wrong, it's really, really easy to lose time as he goes wide in the hairpin yet again. Another little mistake that's going to cost him a few tenths, and it's going to make it really, really easy for Andre to just run away with this race.
I need to correct myself. Of course, Van Bussel has made his pit stop. While he might be able to close up to the rear of him, he won't be able to leapfrog him because they have both made their one and only pit stop required in this race. Another lap there for Andrea Masario. And he's done this all season long, go as long as possible in that Team GT car. And it really does show how that 89 machine has been dominant, because he was able to do the same lap times as Claridge earlier on, faster quite often in the race with more fuel. Now he's running in clean air by himself, lighter on fuel. He's able to coast it around the racetrack, still in the 17, and really just driving away once again with this race. And although we had a couple of slow laps, the fact that Claridge has been stuck again behind Sasa Prosten, who he's just not been able to find a way past as Prosten goes sideways, lose into turn number 2, and now if Claridge is lucky, and what happened there, Prosten just bolts him a little bit. which meant that he couldn't get onto the gas when he needs to. Now Claridge might be able to make the run down to the inside. He's going to have to perhaps go around the outside. One move, and that's all that Prosen was allowed. And then Claridge goes down to the inside. He will finally be able to clear that number 75 car. But I tell you what, Claridge had to work for that one there. And Prosen ran into the middle of the racetrack and then went to the outside. Claridge was very lucky that he saw that gap before he committed.
Yeah, that was really, really fortunate for Mick to be able to get by. And now we're going to have to see if now that he's past Prosen, is he able to get relaxed enough that he's able to push and start trying to reel in Masairo. Masairo's on pit road. And it'll be interesting to see. Right now, Masairo's crossing the line. Now, Claridge is
nowhere near.
Turn 11.
Nowhere near. I don't think. Actually, I take this back. Well, Masairo's barely got to take any fuel. Claridge is working himself down into turn number 14A, into 15. He comes, Masairo is out and away. That's the entire front stretch he has as an advantage.
Yeah, and that's what happens when you get held up like that. It's really, really, really easy to do, so. I'm sure Claridge is going to be kidding himself.
Well,
yeah, 118.5 and go ahead.
One thing I did notice is that Masairo wasn't able to do that much faster lap times when he was running by himself on lighter fuel. In fact, some of his lap times were slower than what he was doing early on in the race. For Mick Claridge, of course, he wasn't able to capitalise on that because of the fact that he was stuck behind Sasso Prosen. The gap, we'll get it updated at the line, it looks to be in the region of about 10 seconds. Now, a lot of that was due to the fact that Claridge was stuck behind Sasso Prosen. Having a look at his lap times, 1 minute 18.1, 1 minute 19.5, 1 minute 18.2, 1 minute 18.5. He did lose about 5 seconds there, stuck behind Sasso Prosen, whilst his tyres would have been at their best.
Yeah, and that's definitely not something you want to see. You might argue that Sasso probably should have given Mick the right of way, considering Mick had made his stop and Sasso hadn't, but they were battling for position. It's definitely a toss-up, but Mick is definitely going to be heartbroken about that. He had a chance to bring it, to be able to reel in Andre and be able to fight for the win, but I think at this point, I think Andre is just too far away.
And then to compound the issue, Sasso Prosen spun afterwards, and he did a 1 minute 20 his last lap. He's now on pit road, pretty much the last of the guys to pit. Now, he did qualify for this race, Prosen, in the 8th position. That's been what hurt him a little bit. Will likely come back out. I'm having a look at around the Andy Goodison mark, about P7. Diego Comini is onto the final corner right now. Prosen hasn't even hit his pit stall yet. So Comini will go back out into the top 5. And Prosen likely come out in about the 6th position when I look at that.
Yeah, that's definitely a factor, and that's definitely one of the things why Sasso maybe should have given the spot to McLaren earlier than he did. Because now that Sasso's hit, McLaren, they were running for 3rd and 2nd, and now Sasso's down in 6th. I think it would have been a sportsmanship thing, but that's just my opinion. That's generally how I feel. Yeah, he doesn't have to, but that's just my perspective on it.
And of course, don't forget, quite often you go faster. We talked about this already. If you're not having to defend, you naturally go faster. So Prosen might have himself lost a little bit less time had he have not, had to defend as heavily from Mick Claridge. The gap, by the way, between Masairo and Claridge is 9 seconds on the racetrack, and Claridge goes sideways again. And somebody said that already in this broadcast. And the gap between Prosen and Comini, and that is what we're really looking at. And that is about 5 seconds-ish, 6 seconds on the racetrack. Now, a little bit of that, Prosen would have been a little bit closer had, of course, he not defended as much as Claridge's car goes wide ahead of him, backfire into the wall.
Yeah, who was that getting into the wall? That was Thomas Barber, actually, who pushed wide through turn 11, I believe it was.
And Prosen almost followed him in, and we'll try and see if we can get ourselves a replay of that. That was down in turn number 11, 12, 13 on the racetrack. And Prosen went very, very wide, and very lucky to avoid hitting one of those Armco barriers there.
Yeah, that's definitely an easy piece there. If you put a tire off on the left, the car just pushes, and then that Armco just pulls you in like a black hole. It's real easy to end a race that way.
Talking of black holes, every Friday, PM Eastern GlacierTV, the Will and Dave Show, arguably the most controversial thing on iRacing since someone decided to call someone else mediocre at best. 4 PM Eastern, Fridays, GlacierTV, the Will and Dave Show. Woohoo! Masairo, by the way, still leads this race. Run through your top 10. Mick Claridge is in second position. Thomas Van Boosel third. David Ward in fourth. Diego Comini in fifth. Sasso Prosen sixth. Seventh is Andy Goodison. Eighth is Oliver Kozak. Ninth is Nick Phillips, the last guy on the lead lap. And then rounding out your top 10 is Tom Cable in the number 65 car. Everyone now has made their pit stop as the Mikas is on pit road. The rest of your field is the Mikas, Mashuti, Grenady, Zrakbark is out of the race. So Gobetti will go ahead of him. And then it's Peter Ridley, Theo Van Brunk, Aaron Nom, Franklin Steglich, and Patrice Ranget. And I tell you what, Goodison almost ran right into the rear of Lorenzo Gobetti there. And the speed differential, you're talking 40-50 miles an hour sometimes between the lap car and the cars on the lead lap.
Oh yeah, especially when you got cars with damage and cars that are even just trying to let other cars by, but the car behind doesn't realize it, so they still just almost run into the back of them. It definitely is treacherous trying to get around people in this place.
And of course, like your high downforce cars coming up this Saturday, 7 p.m. GMT, the final race of the 2013 iRacing World Tour. It is the 2013 iRacing Brazilian Grand Prix, 7 p.m. GMT here on GlacierTV, your home for the iRacing.com World Tour. Now, Messiah, again, 6v2 has been dominant. And once again, Messiah has been able to get himself into a position. He's led every single lap. He's not put a foot wrong this entire race. His coach has put a foot wrong and has fallen back rather dramatically. And now Van Boosel is only about
speaking of Mick, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but going through turns 11 and 12, he screwed up the chicane. He caught a curve really bad, got the car sideways, and he actually ended up getting himself a black flag there. And he might have been into the clutches of Thomas Van Boosel, depending on how much time he lost.
It's 2 seconds. 2 seconds it is right now on the racetrack between Claridge and Van Boosel. Van Boosel has got a slow car, Tom Cable, to get past, which is going to give Claridge a little bit of breathing room. But we've seen, what, 4 or 5 almost moments there from Mick Claridge. One more, Van Boosel will be back to past him almost now. We're at that stage of the race where you won't have enough time to really gain much of an advantage back if you have a moment with 4 minutes and 30 seconds left on the play clock.
Yeah, Claridge, for the next few minutes, he just needs to worry about being clean. He's got a big enough gap to where he can afford to slow down just a little bit, and just to ensure he doesn't put a foot wrong on the grass or get the car loose, spin or anything stupid like that. He just needs to make sure he can hold his lead. Although there is a possibility if he does try to slow down, getting himself out of his rhythm and pulls an Ayrton Senna.
1988 Monaco, by any chance?
Yep.
Yeah. Well, for Mick Claridge as well, he's just got to cut this race into phases, but really this is his last resort now. He's got to really keep his head in the game. Van Boosel felt right. His last lap, 1 minute 18.665. Mick Claridge, a 1 minute 18.4. Now, Claridge can afford to run at this stage race a second a lap slower than Van Boosel and still come home in second. So, but again, as you said, if you slow that car down, it's more simple than more complicated really than saying, oh, you lost concentration. Your braking points change, your apexes change if you slow the car down. And let's not forget, this car does not like slow speeds. You take a corner 10 miles an hour slower than you would do normally, the car's not going to like it.
Yeah, it's almost more of a thing where he doesn't want to necessarily slow down, but he just doesn't want to attack as hard. I mean, if he, like you said, if he takes too much time off, it's real easy to where everything just happens differently and the car reacts to different things that the driver may not be used to. And it's really, really hard to deal with that sometimes.
One other potential battle we might have in the dying moment of this race is between Andy Goodison and Oliver Kozak. Now, it's going to become a little bit more boring than I thought it was going to be because the lap car of Aaron Nom just getting completely out of the way. But Kozak is catching up to the rear of Andy Goodison a little bit. You've got Dorania Raschuti and Andrea Bernardi. They are battling ahead of Goodison. We're going to have to find a way of getting past these two drivers. Oliver Kozak is charging up behind. Looks like Goodison's going to get himself past Doranio, and indeed Kozak's going to go past as well. That would leave now just Bernardi, who they have to get past. But a lot of traffic really playing into the hands of Goodison there, because Kozak really could have had a good fight in those last laps.
Yeah, he definitely could. So it'll be interesting to see if Kozak can catch up to Goodison. Goodison does have quite a bit of damage, so it might, if Kozak can push, he might have the advantage of that aspect. but it'll be really, really interesting to see if he's able to reel him in now. They go down through turn number 1. As Goodison does get sideways due to that rear end, his rear wing is bent quite a bit, probably slipping and sliding really easily.
And what that means is that Kozak now is within draft range, and of course Goodison still has to par Andre Bernardi. Now, if Bernardi's upset in the front aero of that car, number 11 machine, then Kozak might be able to sniff a chance. There's a lap and a half left to go in this race. Andre Massario is working himself down into the hairpin. He will get the white flag the next time by. He comes past the start-finish line. Kozak all over the rear of Andy Goodison. This is going to be a great battle, and if Kozak can just get himself a good run out of the final corner, there might be a chance he can slot himself down the inside into turn number 1. Just keeping an eye, it does look like Kozak isn't as good on the power, but his car handles so much better in these fast corners.
Yeah, especially with that's probably due to the damage that Kozak doesn't have compared to Andy. So now they go through 12, 13, the big long right-hand complex where it just feels like you're turning to the right forever, and it just tightens up, hits this apex on the second to last corner, and then the last corner, get the power down, get a good run out of this front straightaway.
And I'm going to say regrettably, unfortunately, the lap car gets out of the way there, so Kozak's going to have to do his work all by himself. But this is a good place to really see how these cars are handling. Turn 2 and 3, and Goodison sideways once again. Now Kozak, we've seen that this race all the way through. Just because the car gets sideways in turn 2 doesn't mean that you're going to be able to slot past, because of the fact it's such a long corner. You can only get onto the power when the car ahead of you gets onto the power. Kozak wasn't able to do anything that time by. Play clock has hit 0. We are now on the final stages of this race for Andre Massario. He is working himself down into the hairpin for the final time. Really a dominant drive once again by him.
Yeah, he's had the pace on everybody, and even more so, he's just been cleaner than everybody. The only person that's been able to match him in pace really is Mick Claridge, and Claridge he's made little mistakes that throughout the race has just added up to a 13-second gap. He's quit tires, he's gotten sideways, he's missed apexes, he's almost spun, he got a black flag at one point. I mean, it's just really shows that no matter how hard you drive, it really doesn't matter unless you can actually keep it clean.
So down into, for a final time, turn number 12, and now into turn number 13. He comes final time in this race into 14, flicking to the right into 14, A. Now he'll move himself down into turn number 15, the final corner for the final time. He will come out of it, and he is going to win round number 6 of the ESRA Daytona Prototype Championship. Another victory for Team GT, another victory for Andre Massario as he completes another race here, and a dominant drive once again by him. Behind Mick Claridge does take second position. Thomas Van Boesel has to settle for third, waiting for David Ward right now. He's working himself through the final couple of corners for the final time. Just checking to see that no one runs out of fuel. Ward looks as though he's going to take 4th position. Diego Comini 5th. But once again, Massario made 0 mistakes in this race.
Yeah, I mean, the first time we've seen this is just now, and he's doing donuts down by the hairpin. So, I mean, it's a great drive for Massario. Great pace, great consistency, really all the things you need in order to have a good 45-minute race with these cars.
And the next race of the season as well, Tsuyadia Okayama in 2 weeks' time. A track very similar to this. Team GT seems to be so good at these types of racetracks. Another win potentially from there before we go to Silverstone to complete the season December the 17th. So, really, can anyone beat Team GT at this stage of the season? The answer, really, I mean, it's not been dominant in the fact that you've had a Team GT 1, 2, 3, but still, at least one of their cars on the top step of the podium.
Yeah, these Team GT guys are all really good in a lot of these cars, and they're really dominant. Okayama, it'll be an interesting race for sure. There's a little bit more, there's actually quite a bit more straightaway at Okayama compared to here, but the tracks are both similar. There's some really fast corners. The track themselves are actually slick, so I mean, it might just play into Team GT. And Silverstone is similar in a lot of ways to that as well.
Talk about the 2 remaining races of this championship in just a moment's time. We'll run through your final race classification, however. Andre Masayo in the number 89 Team GT car takes victory in a time of 46 minutes and 3 seconds. Mick Lodge finishes 11.1 second behind him in the number 340 car. Thomas Van Boosel comes home the final step on the podium in 3rd. David Ward in 4th. Diego Comini in 5th. Sasso Prosen in the 6th position. In 7th is Andy Goodison. 8th is Oliver Kozak. 9th is Nick Phillips. 10th is Tom Cable. 9 cars finish on the lead lap. In 11th, Andre Demikis. 12th, Andre Brenady. 13th, Doranio Raschuti. 14th is Peter Ridley. 15th is Lorenzo Gabessi. 16th is Aaron Nom. Thomas Vetbach in 17th. Theo Van Brunk in 18th. Franklin Stiglick in 19th. And Patrice Langet rounds out the top 20. The biggest surprise you had to say in the race was Aaron Nom's DNF from what was essentially P2 at the start of this race. That moment down at turn number 2 really put him out of contention, and he might have had a very easy 2nd place.
Yeah, it definitely might have been possible, although given Mick's pace, I'm curious if he would have been able to catch Arrow, but oh well, it's just one of those things that happens, unfortunately. It's definitely, Arrow's going to be kicking himself, and he's going to be making sure he does good races at Yokohama and Silverstone.
To finish 1st or 2nd or 3rd or wherever, first you have to finish. And for Aaron Nom, 16th place is not the result he would want in this race. Gonna have a chat to David Ward, coming home 4th in this race. David, it's been a tough race for you once again. Looked good at the start, but a couple of small mistakes. Lap traffic didn't go your way. Lost out to Van Boosel in the pit stop as you were stuck behind Sasso Prosen. You weren't stuck behind Sasso Prosen. Stuck behind a couple of lap cars after making your pit stop.
Yeah, I mean, no, I'm actually quite happy with the 5 result. We ended up having too much downforce on the car, so as the race went on, it really hurt us, and the car just started understeering. So then towards the end, after the pit stop, it got even worse. Put 3 gallons more fuel in than we should have, and then I thought, you know what, I'm just going to cruise around, bring it on home. And I could see Diego coming like slowly, and it was like, if I could just keep ahead of him, I'll be happy. So yeah, Van Boosel, Mike and those lot really quick. Mike gave me a bit of a tap at the beginning of the race to take that 3rd from the beginning. So
yeah, we saw that. I mean, start of the race, turn number 2, couple of taps. Did it upset your arrow at all? Could that have been the reason why you had understeering a little bit later on in the race?
Nah, maybe. I don't know. I was really pushing hard, and you know, it's like nothing really happened. So like Robin's racing, I'm sure if I did it to Mike, he'd say the same thing.
But you got 2 races left in the championship. Next one at Toyota in 2 weeks' time, and that track really is slippery as hell. It's a tough track. It's a physical track. But Mickey Mouse as well, very few overtaking opportunities, but still looking forward to a good race there.
Where are we going again? Sorry,
I called it Toyota. It's Okayama.
Okayama.
Yeah, you gotta remember, David Will lives in the early 90s.
I do.
Yeah, that's going to be an interesting track to race on. That's tight, twisty bits. Yeah, there isn't many places to overtake there. Yeah, it's gonna be fun. I've never driven anything there, raced anything there, so it's gonna be interesting to see who comes out on top on the final round. So
you played F1 95 there or something?
Yeah, I think back in the day, but yeah, nothing in iRacing as such. So yeah, it'll be interesting. So it's the final round, and everyone's going to want to try and win that race, and go into the next season happier.
I thought we were going to Silverstone afterwards.
Are we?
Yeah.
Is there 2 more to go? Oh my god, I didn't even know. Sorry.
Jesus Christ.
God damn it. Yeah, so Silverstone after that. Fantastic.
Yeah.
I like Silverstone. I do go quite well there, but I'm sure everyone else does as well.
True story that. I'll talk to you after we finish this race and hit you around the head for saying that. But we'll be back in 2 weeks' time. The penultimate round of the championship at Okayama Raceway in Japan. We'll be back for that same time, same place, hopefully, here on Glacier TV. Don't forget, every Friday, 4 p.m. Eastern on Glacier TV, the most controversial thing since someone called someone mediocre at best. It is the Will and Dave Show. Every week, Fridays, 4 p.m. Eastern on Glacier TV. Also syndicated on ETV Motorsports Radio and on iTunes as well, because we're that damn awesome. And also this Saturday, it is the final round of the 2013 iRacing World Tour. It is the iRacing.com Brazilian Grand Prix, 7 p.m. GMT, here, live, exclusive, I can say that, on Glacier TV. From myself, Will Vincent, from Randy Shuttleworth and Yana Bettakane, we'll see you in 2 weeks for the penultimate round of the ESRA Rally Daytona Prototype Championship. This has been a Glacier TV presentation of the ESRA Rally Daytona Prototype Championship. We'll see you next time. Bye!